All right. Okay. Mic is on. Hello, everyone, and welcome to session Synergy 147, the new mobile workspace experience. My name is Thomas. I'm part of the technical marketing organization, and I'm based out of Switzerland. With me on stage is Shankara. You want to say a word or two? If anyone didn't hear that, I think it's Director of Engineering. So he owns pretty much everything you find on your endpoint. It's from his teams. Anyway, we have a pretty packed agenda, even without slides. Oh, there we go. And let's get started. So I think just a bit of level setting here. So I think we all agree that there's a growing number of organizations out there which kind of change the way they look at IT. And I'm sure some of you experience that as well. So we're moving from a cost-focused approach where IT should be as cheap as possible and we want to squeeze 5% more out of it, where now organizations change the way they consider that and think, how can IT help me driving business value? So how can I use IT as a competitive differentiator against all the companies out there? How can it enable me to make my organization more productive, my users more productive, a better place to work, or these kind of things? And as part of that, these organizations are modernizing the workspace. So this is obviously one very important piece of it. So the goal there is that users can access all the work-related sources quicker, faster. If they search for something, ideally they don't have to search for something, but if they have to search it, they find it in one place very easily, and ultimately then get more time which they can spend on things which generate business value, or just take the time they have left and spend it with the customer, or provide better customer service, or anything of these things. And so productivity is a key piece as an outcome there. The other piece, obviously, is organizations try to standardize their organizations. They have a million of different solutions. They try to standardize them, bring it on platforms to simplify for the users as well as for the IT. And this also helps them to really helps them to secure the infrastructure, right? If you just have one place where everything is consumed through, it's a lot easier to secure it, to implement security techniques to make sure that data doesn't leave the organization. But improving productivity and implementing those modern security tools and practices is really just one driver behind all of that digital workspace transformation. We have heard something of that this morning in the keynote, that in recent surveys, it appears that about 85% of the employees worldwide are either not engaged or actively disengaged with their job. And not engaged means they don't really care about their organization or the outcome of their job. And actively disengaged means they are essentially sabotaging their organization from inside out. And I think this is a pretty alarming state we're in. And there is millions of reasons why that is, and there's quite a bunch of things or activities organizations can do to improve that. But obviously, helping or using technology to help the users to focus on the job they potentially love, or the task or the outcome they want to drive, to help them focus longer on it, to reduce the interruptions or the context switching out of that work task they want to do, can also help and contribute to higher employee happiness and satisfaction, and overall improve the user engagement. And there are a few companies doing it out there. You've heard some of the statistics earlier today. So there are companies which focus on employee experience, and they see about 70% higher productivity, 21% higher profitability, and a lot less turnover. So for an organization, of a Fortune 500 organization, this translates into about $5 billion of extra revenue and $500 million of net income. So this is not only, besides making it a better place to work and user happiness and whatnot, there's also a very strong financial incentive to go beyond what we have to do and to really take a long, hard look at the digital workspace we are driving or we are delivering today and translating it into something which is working in the 21st century. So if we look at the digital workspace, then the question is obviously, what is it from a more technical perspective? And in many cases, and actually I'm looking into competitive intelligence too, a lot of competitors out there believe that the digital workspace is a portal. It's a thing, you log on, you get a bunch of icons, you click them, and off you go. But honestly, an empty portal, just a website, just another website, doesn't really help a thing. If it's an empty website, it doesn't provide any value. So you got to have something in your digital workspace which infuses some applications into it. And applications can be in anything. This can be a native local app, this can be a web app, a SaaS app, a mobile app, whatever, all of the above. And you gotta have a way to manage it, to assign it, to control it, secure it, and so on. You gotta think about ways to get data into the digital workspace. I mean, when you're not opening Word, for example, because Word is such a beautiful application, you open it because you want to write a letter. And if you happen to roam between locations or devices, you want to make sure that letter roams with you. And if you happen to have a colleague which you want to collaborate on, you want to have a way in the digital workspace to collaborate on that piece of content you just created. So this is an important aspect. You need to make sure that you understand, you configure, you secure all the devices those workspaces are configured or consumed on. And now my Adobe just quit unexpectedly, so let's see. And off we go again. We need to have some ways in the digital workspace we're delivering where we can deliver or set security guardrails. So we want to define acceptable behavior, and we want to make sure we can actually track it, we can enforce it, and if something happens, we are alerted about it and can take action on it. We heard a lot about notifications, or notifications in this case is really just a synonym for removing the signal from the noise, or removing the noise in general and just focusing on the signal, on that constant stream of information the user sees on a daily basis. We need to filter that out. And last but not least, we need it manageable, right? I can achieve all of that very simply with multiple tools, but this is also then creates a lot of technical debt and creates a lot of management overhead on the back end. So what I really need is not individual point solutions. I need something which is a digital workspace platform. And this is what we're all about. And I fundamentally believe Citrix Workspace at the moment is the most integrated and feature-rich platform out in the market today. For sure, there are things where we need to improve and things we need to innovate on, and we are doing so. But this is one of the few platforms out in the market, and it stands out from its competitors. So now that we want to build a modern workspace, we obviously have to keep in mind that a secure digital workspace starts with a secure endpoint, right? If that entry point is unsecure, it's very hard to make sure all the rest is secure. And also need to make sure that this endpoint is configured in the way that actually my workspace becomes consumable. And this is actually exactly what Citrix Endpoint Management helps ensuring, right? This is our unified endpoint management solution, which is baked right into Workspace. And we put a lot of time and effort into evolving and innovating around it very quickly. And just to get you an eye chart, or just to get you an idea what that means, this is all the features we delivered since the beginning of 2019. And I'm not going to go into the details of the features across all the different device platforms we support, because there are other sessions later this week which discuss all of that in detail. But I just want to get you an idea about that there's a lot of things coming. The cool part here is that obviously we benefit all of that. What it also means is that we get a recognition from industry analysts. So I have a few examples for you of industry analyst reports released over the last 6 to 9 months. And all of them put Citrix Endpoint Management in the leaders quadrant. So this is Forrester, for example. Then we have Radicati. Then we have IDC. They have two marketscapes. One is for enterprise mobility management, and the other one is for unified endpoint management. All of them put Citrix in the leaders quadrant. So it is it's a very good option, a viable, very good option for securing and managing endpoints. And one aspect where Citrix Endpoint Management stands out, especially in combination with Citrix Workspace in general, or because of that integration, is that rich mobile user experience we all try to deliver, and frankly, all of our users are expecting from us. So what we'd like to do is to go through a few aspects of that digital workspace, that new mobile workspace experience, and tell you how it looks like and what we have coming in the near-term future. And obviously, when it comes to simplicity, we all know we want to make sure that the workspace can be consumed easy, it can be onboarded easy, and so on. So let me show you a few examples. Obviously, the very first thing a new employee sees is enrollment, right? I need to get onboarded into the IT system of my organization provides me, especially if that's some sort of a BYOD scenario or something. You got to make that simple. And there's a few nice screenshots, but I just show you a quick video about how that looks like. And essentially, what it does, it's a mobile phone. It downloaded Citrix Workspace just from the App Store. all you got to do is you specify your email address, then we discover the things in the backend. You authenticate with whatever mechanism you figured out is appropriate for that use case. And then pretty much you are good to go. So you can start consuming your applications at that moment. Now we go one step further. We enroll the device. So we enable my employer, or I enable my employer to manage the device, to push certificates, to deliver me applications straight away without my interaction. So this is where Secure Hub comes in. You've seen that was just a few more clicks. I enrolled the device, and now I have all the applications delivered. And with that enrollment, we can do all sorts of things. We're going to see mobile SSO in a few seconds, but I also can configure applications. We have app config support. That means all the applications I make available as a user, as an administrator, I can pre-configure. So things like an application which needs to be pointed to the right instance in a cloud service, something like that, this can all be configured right from this point on. Now we obviously have one of the applications we just configured is the Citrix Workspace app. And we have seen that this morning in the keynote. I don't want to bore you with that, but this is kind of the hub. This is the central thing where work gets started and work gets done in many cases, as we've seen it this morning. So this is the location where all applications can be accessed. If it's mobile apps in this case, or if it's a web, a SaaS app, or a virtualized application. It also provides, obviously, access to files. We talked about that earlier. The great part is that this also provides a consistent experience. So independent of where you consume it and how you consume it, it looks the same. It behaves the same. It provides the same capabilities. And as we update it from a Citrix backend perspective, new features roll out quite quickly. So this is also very important. Now we have enrolled the devices. We have all the applications available. And there was one thing we always had as a gap, if you like, from the user experience perspective. Let's say I was a user. I was trying to use Slack. We use Slack internally as a communication vehicle pretty much all the time. So we could configure Slack in the way it was pointing to the right instance and all the things, but then there was one thing where user interaction was required, and that was the authentication piece, right? We could not single sign-on users into mobile applications. And this is what mobile SSO is all about. So what I have for you here is a quick user experience video showing right that. So this is an iPad, I believe, or a tablet of some form or shape, and we have Slack there. What we would like to do, we click the button. If the video rolls, let's see. In theory, oh, there we go. So now I click the button. I was being asked if I want to install it, and I say yes, I would like to install it. It's getting pushed to my device. You see it. It's being downloaded from the App Store. Now, what we did not configure in this scenario, unfortunately, is the whole app config part. So Slack will prompt me for the instance and ask me a few questions. This is what we obviously could abstract as well. We didn't do, unfortunately, for this video. But just imagine you're not seeing this instance now coming up. But what you need to see now, here is the sign-in piece. You click the button, and then you see a lot of magic happening, but there's no user interaction. The next thing you see is you're being signed into Slack. So this becomes, from a user perspective, it becomes very simple to use. You don't even have to remember your username or password or anything like that. It just works, right? So with app config and this mobile SSO combined, essentially you click on Slack, you get it installed, you open it up, and the next thing you see is this screen, pretty much. The next thing I want to quickly touch base on, and this is adjacent, if you like, to mobile experience. I mean, I can do a lot of things on a mobile device. I can consume my content on a mobile device quite nicely, but when it comes to creating like a big PowerPoint or writing a long document or doing whatever work you need to do, at some point in time you need to break out to a proper workstation. And obviously that breaking out process or moving to a workstation process can be quite cumbersome. And this is where Citrix Workspace Hub comes into the play. So what you see here is a setup. Workspace Hub is configured. You see it's powered on. There's the screen is coming on. It shows us the QR code. And what I can do as a user, I can walk up to that thing and either scan the QR code with the Workspace app, or if it's configured in the right way, then it uses a Bluetooth beacon. In that moment, it registers or realizes that proximity. So there's a device which has an authenticated user session running on it near that Workspace Hub. And then the user can initiate a cast, and the session roams to that device. At that moment, keyboard, mouse, monitors, whatever is connected as peripheral devices become accessible for that session. And you do your whatever magic you need to do, write another version of Workspace App, for example. And then when you're done, you just take your phone, the proximity is gone, and the session roams with you on the phone, and you go to the next station. That also works if you think about a hospital scenario. You could say the doctor roams from room to room, and just by putting it on the device, it roams the session there, you do your thing, and off you go. So there is no, this transition essentially is gone. So this was simplicity. So it's quite simple to use and quite simple to do your work on it. But now we want to see how we can improve productivity.
Sure. Thanks, Thomas. So I think from as Thomas mentioned, the three themes that we definitely want to focus is on simplicity, productivity, and security. So what I'm going to actually do for the remainder of the session is to show you aspects of the apps that is making your life productive, right? And we have like a suite of demos that we want to show. So the first suite of demo that we will talk about is on secure mail, right? So on mail, we've actually been looking at a concept of driving kind of intelligence into mail and making sure that we are able to drive actions and drive smartness to the conversation, right? So we've been toying around with this idea of what we are calling it as a focused or a priority inbox, where we start to reduce the noise levels for you through the email traffic that you get, but yet have you focus on conversations that make sense for you, right? So let me just shift and show you. Sorry, I think I need to go back.
What do you want to go back?
Yep. Let me just show a quick demo on this. So this is 8. And then go. So that's the actual device that's running here. So if you actually see the mail calendar that you have right now, it's a different view that you will be seeing here, where you're actually seeing a focused and another inbox here. So what this actually allows me to do is, this is actually filtering the mail to tell me as a user, mails that are critical for me, which are getting filtered in the focused even, and mails that are, I would say, less critical, which can actually wait, right? Again, the thematics is around how do we drive productivity and smartness for a user. Now we can do a bunch of good things in this. So I do see that, well, I as a developer or an engineer do get a lot of mails from Jenkins, and I believe, well, this can wait probably in another category, right? So what I do, I can actually do a full swipe. You see the 3 dots, you can actually tap on that. It's actually going to allow the user to say, well, I want to move this conversation to other. So what it allows the user to then do is it's going to give you options to say, why do you think this mail is not that important compared to what you saw on focus, right? So I probably think maybe the subject could be one, and I can pick recipients, and I can probably pick the content. It's a multi-select, and I say, okay. So it's going to make sure that, well, as it trains the model, it's a modeling on the device. So it actually is going to say, well, you want to do this once or twice. I probably will say move once. So the mail actually moves from your focused inbox, as you just saw, and then moves to other, right? So it's a good use case where you as a user would be able to drive conversations and make sure that you're actually able to act upon things that are meaningful, right? So that's the first set of demo for productivity on mail.
One quick comment on that. I'm using the prioritized inbox for the last, I want to say, 2 or 3 months. And at the beginning, it's a bit of an interesting. You always feel like, oh, maybe it's moving something important to the wrong folder, but it's not. It's amazingly accurate already. But what is interesting is I trust this model now so much that I see myself every now and then not looking at the other email tab, and I ignore those mails. And sometimes, even if they are not that important, sometimes you have to react to them in anyway. So but it's good, and I only wish it would be available on my Mac or another device as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, the thematics is, as you heard today in the keynote, is how do you drive the productivity so that we can save you time in your day, right? So the entire theme is to make sure that we're making your life easier, making your life simple, but yet I think all this actually is innovation that we are driving through. The next set of feature that I actually want to switch back to 6. You got to get used to this, right? Do take, all right. Is the feeds, right? So we kind of talked about the concept of feeds last year during Synergy, and we've been accelerating the feeds investment. We've actually had a lot of customers talk to us about ability to reorder, reconfigure the view that you see in the initial feeds. At the same time, they wanted to make sure that you can reorder cards and all that good stuff, right? So I'll just briefly, again, show you a quick demo on that. So that's my feeds section, right? So you do see a bunch of cards that is already populated for me as a user. Now, the whole idea here is again going to be to make your life productive, right? So you do see now a new tab. Sorry, I think I moved it fast. Called Manage Feeds. So you should be able to go ahead and tab that. Now, you would think that you want to definitely make sure that you act on mails that are coming from your manager, which I think is going to be more important for you than things that can wait. So you probably do a long press on that, and then you can actually move it up. You can also think that, well, I want to kind of move upcoming meetings on the top, which actually is going to scroll that up. And let me just go back to the view here, right? So it actually rearranges the view based on what you just selected, so that all your key meetings or all your key items that you want to action upon gets formulated first. Now, the other good thing you can also do is, well, if you want to actually go into your subfolders, you have an opportunity to even tag that in, so you get all your subfolders available for you to be made available in the feeds, and actually do the same reordering or deletion of the feeds accordingly, right? So that's also available. Now you also want to do one tab saying, look, I don't want this feed available in your section. What you can actually do is do that, and then do the delete. And as you go back to your feed section, I think that card actually gets to vanish, right? So again, a pretty useful feature from the perspective of what we've been hearing from customers, right? And this is something that is going to drive the productivity conversation for you as a user. Again, in the theme of this, another interesting feature which we were toying with earlier this week with a few customers, and you'll hear this talked about a lot, is around organizational hierarchy, right? So you think it's a simple feature, but the amount of opportunity you have to drive conversations with your customers are huge, right? Now, let me show you a simple example here, right? So if you have Vineet as a contact here, you actually now in your contact card gets to see another view of your organization here, which actually talks about your entire structure of who you report to, and then the entire change, right? And this is an Exchange Web Service look, so it's pretty easy configurable for your own organization. You also are able to now mail your manager or send a meeting invite directly from the view that you actually see. You can also send an email to all your direct reportees in the chain, and also create a meeting invite for all of them, right? Pretty standard functionality available for, and this is all GA. Whatever I'm actually showing is GA, and many of them are at least, and we do a canary process. So most of what I'm showing is publicly available for you guys to consume. So just moving on. I think we showed a lot of things on iOS, and I just want to show you stuff which we are starting to innovate or is coming soon. I might need some help to shift this device. So while it does that, right? So this one is coming in the next 3 to 4 weeks of time frame, which will hit the public store. So calling this as a calendar widget. So in conversations with people and customers, what we've realized is a lot of you would like to have the view of seeing your calendars without even going to mail, right? And having the ability to join either conversations directly from there. So the entire intent is giving you almost a widget. So at this point in time, thank you. At this point in time, this is actually available only on Android, as I mentioned, in the next 3 weeks time frame. And then we should have it available on the other platform too. So I think that comes up in here. No. No, I didn't.
Now we see the difference between iOS and Android in
Well,
real.
yeah.
iOS, it just works. Not saying I'm a fanboy, but
Oh. It doesn't flash now.
well then. Just talk through it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you may not be able to see a demo, but it's available on the Android device. So if you actually do, can we just swing back to the main screen? So if you actually see see what I just showed, so again, that's an opportunity for you to actually see the calendar widget on your home screen. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. So, but I think you have an opportunity now to see the calendar widget on your home screen, and that's actually live in the next 3 weeks for you to consume. But the intent here is if you are able to see the widget there, it's actually available for you at one stop to join anything, any conversation that you want to go, right? So, and just move on to the subfolder notifications. Again, this is a pretty standard set of demo that you have been used to. So in this, I think in conversations, what we hear is we also want an ability to get notified on all the subfolders that you have available. So within the context of mail, again, if you really want to be notified on every single subfolders that you have within your organizational hierarchy and yet be notified, I think you have an opportunity to kind of see that. Again, this is a GA feature that's available for you to consume as a customer, right, from now. Just in terms of numbers, right, we looked at a lot of apps and app innovation. So it's quite interesting to see the number on mail, right? I mean, this is one of the most heavily used apps. So we were able to pull some numbers in the last, say, 30 days, just to give you some marketing gig around it, right? So it's about, we see about a 1.3 million active use on it every month. See about close to 85 million attachments that you get downloaded on the platform. It's about 30 million plus emails that I've sent, and then you've got about 205 million emails that people read, right? So it's very heavily used, one of the most used product that we see within our platforms as well. Just gonna skip this one, right? Got like 15 minutes.
Okay.
We'll just talk about the intelligent workspace that got announced today in the construct of, again, how we make our users productive. So I'm just gonna go back and show you a demo. Again, the construct for us, as you heard in the keynote, was we didn't want users to kind of bounce off between different applications, do the same actions on multiple apps, then keep bouncing off. We wanted to definitely make sure that the experience that you saw on desktop is very similar to mobile, right? So here, whatever I'm showing on the mobile side will be very similar to what you will see on desktop too. So I'm just gonna switch back to the demo. So take So what you actually see for me here is the concept of an intelligent workspace card, right? So you actually are seeing that I, as a user, is now getting a lot of feeds available for you to approve from different SaaS apps that have been configured, all the way from ServiceNow to I have like travel approvals that I can actually act on. Right now, if I want to even go in and view a particular card, that's actually going to give you the details about it right here without you even needing to bounce off to another application. And you can actually go ahead and, as a user, tap on any of the actions that you want to provide. It also gives you a lot of notifications in terms of like tickets and other information that you would need as a user, which gets aggregated and shown on the mobile device. Now, you also have quick actions that you as a user would be able to take. We've kind of pre-built about 10 plus connectors at this point in time, right, which actually allows you to aggregate information from these different SaaS vendors. But again, the intent here is you will have an opportunity to kind of tap on any of them and then have a workflow to complete the action as a user, right? So if I want to say, I want to submit a quick expense within Concur, you have an opportunity to enter it here, choose the amount, choose the currency that you want to actually enter in. This is all live data, right? So I'm not going to, so this goes through the entire workflow concept, and then you hit the submission, and then the submit actually goes into your manager or your hierarchy for that approval to happen. Again, the thing here is we're not bouncing off to a different app here at all, but then you have an opportunity to kind of take actions from a single application, yet making you productive to complete your workflow as you are transitioning between desktop or mobile form factor. Again, a lot of the integration that we're building through this will be available, as you heard in the keynote, and our at least the approach through Intelligent Workspace is to make sure that we give you features that are meaningful for you as a user to drive the productivity actions for your enterprise needs every day.
Two comments on that. One thing obviously is we have those connectors to some of the most popular applications out there. We saw Concur, Workday, Salesforce, and so on, Jira, and whatnot. And we provide a variety of micro apps on top of that. So those things where you can, as we just saw, like request PTO or approve expenses. What we quickly saw on the keynote as well is there's this micro app builder or the studio to create those applications. And this is really up to, or essentially the sky is the limit. Whatever works for your specific process or use case or worker type, you create the application for it. Essentially, you can say, create an application or a notification which says, alert me on all Salesforce opportunities that get assigned to me as an individual, or everything which has over a certain threshold in opportunity which gets entered is escalated automatically to the manager. Or you say you want to create an application which manipulates a few of those data fields in whatever backend application you're having. So this is really this is really powerful that you have the ability to create whatever it is. So essentially you can say this, what we deliver at the moment or will deliver, is kind of the starting point to get your creative juices flowing and to show you what the capabilities are. But in reality, this goes far beyond what you see there.
So we'll just shift gears and talk about security.
Yeah, sure. Bring this home quickly. So if you remember at the very beginning, I said the digital workspace has a variety of components, and one of those important aspects is we have to have the ability to set security guardrails. That's obviously more of a policy configuration piece, but we also have to have the ability to control and to monitor acceptable behavior and figure out what is acceptable and what behavior is going beyond the normal usage, and then alert or take immediate action. And obviously what our solution to that is, or the intent there, is Citrix Analytics Services. We have announced it a while ago. We have talked through that in the keynote already, and just a bit of a background there. That service, essentially what it does, it consumes raw data inputs primarily from Citrix or from Citrix services, endpoint management, virtual apps and desktops, content collaboration, and so on. All of these services you have subscribed and your users are using feed in data points, important data points into the machine learning model which sits in the middle. We also can, that's the announcement this morning, we also can get in feeds or data points from the Microsoft Security Graph, so for everything which they learn from your Windows 10 endpoints, for example. All of that feeds into a machine learning model, and from there we understand what is normal behavior for a specific user, right? The key differentiation here is this is not threshold setting. You're not saying, I think normal behavior is like, or let's say I want to have an alert if someone shares more than 5 files. Maybe someone never shares 5 files, but maybe there is a bunch of people which need to share 50 on a daily basis because they work in partner enablement or something like this. So what thresholds wouldn't work in this case, and it's very hard to work with thresholds in a dynamic digital workspace environment anyway. So what this thing is doing, it is training a machine model as it understands the usage behavior of each user individually. It figures out what is normal behavior and then adapts over time. And if it goes beyond what the user usually does, it alerts or does things. In this case, usually it just then creates a risk score. So there's a risk score associated to that user. And the more activities which is being registered from that user which go beyond the acceptable behavior, the more the risk score increases. And as the risk score hits a certain limit, then you start, or the system can start taking action. So this can be enforcing the user to sign in with a second factor again, or disable all the file sharing links the user has sent out, or lock the device, or alert the admin. This is really up to whatever you do. But essentially the core piece is it is pattern based on the user. The cool part is, since this is all in cloud, it's very easy to integrate. Essentially, all the hard work has already been done. From an endpoint management perspective, all you got to do is you go in the Citrix Cloud control plane and say enable the service, or in this case, the screenshot, it already has been enabled, you can turn it off. So there's just one button you click, and then analytics service starts consuming all the activities. After you have done so, you get obviously the data flows. Then you get also the ability to configure rules, so conditions. So if a user connects from a jailbroken device, then this feeds into something, or then a certain activity is triggered. Or you can say also trigger actions based on whatever the risk score is. And then what you obviously see, this is the user behavior. So you can click on each and every behavior, and then you see that user did, in this case, I can't read it hard. I think it's a jailbroken device. That's what the red rectangle is around. The jailbroken device was detected. In this case, was not only one jailbroken device, but 3. I added those arrows. So that's why the risk score goes through the roof for that user. So most likely someone got the user credentials from that user and tried to break in via different devices, something like this. But it's certainly not behavior what you usually see. So this is really powerful. And this is this guardrail piece. And that is important for the digital workspace. Digital workspace is a multitude of different services or different applications, different things you consume. And you have to have something which has that overview about everything. Otherwise, if you just have point solutions, it's very hard to get that general holistic view on behavior of users, and securing that the workspace is pretty much impossible. The last thing I really want a quick touch base on, and we saw that morning in the keynote, it's around secure browsing. Obviously, we always show it on physical endpoints, on Mac or Windows, but it also works with mobile devices, right? The point here is whenever you create a web application or you publish a web application to a user, it goes through it can be consumed, if you like, in a hardened browser. And I'm just showing you that diagram for the sake of time. So essentially, this is what most of, or essentially all of our competitors out there do. So they provide you a portal, you click a link of that web application, and it launches the native browser on whatever device you're using. So this is what they do. They do some single sign-on, maybe they report on that, but that's pretty much it. You're breaking out into whatever browser is configured. The challenge is you don't have control about that browser. What if that browser is a Firefox that has some sort of weird plugins in it which happen to scrape your screen all the time? You have no control as an admin over that. So what we can do is we can give the admin a little button which says enhanced security. In that moment, that application or that web application is not launched in the local browser, but it's launched within that hardened embedded browser we ship with Workspace. And there, we completely understand the browser. The user has no ability to modify or change that browser behavior, and we can set all sorts of DLP controls. So Kelvin talked through that this morning. We can prevent copy printing. We can also add watermarks to it. So in case someone takes a screenshot or just takes a photo of your monitor, you still have a visible watermark over it. So there's a strong incentive for the user to not share that screenshot they took. And then from within that app, whenever you click a link, it goes through an URL repetition engine. So we figure out, even if there might be, someone might post a weird link in Salesforce to the Pirate Bay for whatever reason, then we can say, no, this is not acceptable behavior, and we just block that access. Or we can say we redirect that access to another cloud service which has a browser but with an air gap between your organization and us, or the internet, and no bad code can enter your organization. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and it talks to the point that most of the attacks organizations or most of the security challenges organizations have come from the internet, either via mail or via browsing, and this creates this level of security you probably should implement.
I'll also just add on saying that we do have a session on app protection in itself, the product that got announced earlier today, right? So there is which actually allows you to do anti-key logging as well as screen capture. So if you do have interest, we also have an experience booth or in the booth session, so which actually can walk you through with the technology that's powering this, like how do you prevent, how do you make sure that your experience within the Workspace app is still secure, and you have an opportunity to kind of be protected, right? And we call that as an app protection from our standpoint.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us actually to an end. So this was actually a very quick run through all the features we have, and as just mentioned, we have the experience booth. So all the demos we have there, you can go and see for yourself, play with it, see what that it's for real. And I hope you liked what you saw, and if so, please rate the session as being great, and if not, ignore it. Have a great day.
Thank you.